Sticking out from the clearing ahead was something that didn't belong. They approached cautiously and inspected the twisted hunk of metal, hoping that someone wasn't still inside. They opened the front door and peered into the wreck, and thankfully, there was nobody there. But how did it get here? Just then, Joe spotted something bright blue from the corner of his eyes. It began just like any other normal evening for Alec, Ionescu, and Joe Del Vecchio. The two teenagers had known the woods behind their homes in Lackawanna County for all their lives. They often went ATVing, hiking, and fishing there. However, on this excursion, they stumbled on something that would turn out to be the clue investigators were searching for. They had no idea that their woodland playground would never be the same afterwards. Joe and Alec decided to go to a corner of the woods in search of adventure. But the pair didn't know that adventure had already found them. They found the car far from the road, and all signs pointed to something sinister. The boys immediately knew something was very wrong. The car in the woods just didn't make sense. There were no signs of movement inside the abandoned car, but the windows had all been smashed. Joe and Alec peered inside but didn't find a soul. Everything was eerily quiet. The teenagers, curious, started to look around the car in search of more clues. How had the car gotten so far into the woods, and what had happened to the passengers? Joe began to search for anything that might solve the mystery. He opened the car and looked for signs of what had happened, and that's when he found a Sam's Club retail card. Did it belong to the driver? The two boys didn't put two and two together until later. The name on the card was Edwin Kosek, and the name sounded vaguely familiar. The Sam's Club card was the first piece of the puzzle. Joe and Alec typed the name into Google and Facebook. What they found online left them wide-eyed in disbelief. When the teens saw who the card belonged to, they wasted no time. However, time was running out. The man who the Sam's Club retail card belonged to was none other than ex-federal judge Edwin Kosek. He was a much-loved figure in the community. The 91-year-old had been missing for 2 days, and the teenagers were the only ones who had the slightest clue about his whereabouts. They couldn't believe what they had stumbled upon. The police had taken to the news and even social media to encourage anyone with information to come forward. Time was of the essence of the federal judge. The police feared that an elderly man would not survive exposure to the freezing cold. The winter temperature had plummeted overnight. Alec and Joe immediately searched around the abandoned car again. To no avail. There was no sign of the missing man. Joe and Alec raced home and told their parents about the mangled car and the missing judge. When their search for Kosek became futile in the growing darkness, the boys' parents immediately called the police, who asked the teenagers to take them to the scene in the woods. They arrived equipped with flashlights and a K9 unit. The search party looked for the missing man deep into the night. "I didn't think they'd find him alive," Alec admitted in an interview later. "I was a little scared, but unbeknown to the boys, there was already a massive investigation underway. The media was involved and the public had rallied together. taking to social media and the news in hopes of finding their beloved community member. They had even put up billboards in the hopes that someone had some information. The residents of the town had even assembled search parties of their own. I've gone up the mountain, Aston Mountain, checking the back roads and stuff, just seeing if he made a wrong turn somewhere and got lost, one volunteer said. Everyone was worried about 91-year-old Cossack, and the tension grew as the hours passed, and there was still no sign of him. Judge Cossack had been a federal judge for over 30 years and was well known and loved by the community. But what had happened to him? Fears grew that something nefarious was afoot, as the judge had no doubt made some dangerous enemies over the years. Then, the first clue was found on a camera security footage. Cossack could be seen on the recording 24 hours before the police had realized he was missing. Cossack was wearing jeans and a blue coat in the early hours of the morning as he tried to enter Bill's ShopRite, which was closed due to the hour. But what had happened to him? Everyone was worried that the judge's disappearance was due to criminal activity. Had he been attacked or taken? Then, the boys made their breakthrough discovery in the woods. With the new evidence of the car in the woods, the police soon found Cossack. The dogs quickly found his scent and led the police to where he had been lying, just 100 meters away from the abandoned car. The boys had passed over him numerous times as they searched in the dark, but was he alive? Cossack was barely conscious, and he had been too weak to call out, and he had no idea where he was. The marshals then managed to piece together what chain of events had led him to be alone in the woods, so far away from any roads. He had suffered memory loss and had become disoriented, and had crashed his car, exhausted and shocked. He had collapsed. Cossack was immediately taken to the hospital and treated. His son, who had been sick with worry since he had gone missing, shed tears of relief. He then told the hospital to watch out for old injuries that may have been caused by Cossack's accident. Surprisingly, the hospital declared him to be in fair condition. It was truly a miracle. If the two teens, Joe and Alec, hadn't stumbled upon the car and the telltale club card, Cossack's story may not have had a happy ending. And the beloved judge is alive and well thanks to their quick thinking and curiosity. U.S. Marshal Martin Penn was especially grateful. We are very thankful to these two young men that they saw this vehicle happened to be in this area, fortunately, Penn told Fox News. Joe and Alec visited Cossack in the hospital to make sure he was okay, and Cossack was even present when they received an award for their bravery, saying it was an honor to watch them receive their award. I am sat here today because of them. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.